we had all moved, everything was moved out of the house we lived in, except for a couch and a mattress, and a TV, because I made sure to keep that because the King of the Ring pay-per-view was that weekend. So the last thing I did in my house was watch the King of the Ring pay-per-view when Foley got thrown off the cell with all my friends. And then the next day, I was moving in with my grandparents, and that was the worst summer of my life. So all day, I would just listen to this insane symphony of the noise from the creaking rocking chair, which I'm trying to do now, but this chair's higher quality than the rocking chair. So it would just go, and then I would hear the clock, and my grandmother would sometimes sing to herself a little, so it would be the symphony of the creaking chair, the clock, and her going, This is horror movie type of shit. So I was terrified that somebody was going to try to burn down the house while we were in there, so I just wouldn't sleep. It was great times.
Sounds fun.
Because I remember, back then it was VHS tape, so you could copy it onto your own tape, if you had 2 VCRs, and my dad, showed me how to do it. I did not copy the Bret Hart versus Bob Backlund match because I thought Bret Hart was incredibly boring. But I was hooked, and that's where we talked to Joe Dwayne with my mom, and he said, yeah, come by the wrestling school. It was about 15 minutes away from my house, so we went that week, and it was in a barn, in an actual barn, and the ring was shit. The internet started coming around, and I remember I was in computer class at school. It was like computer class, teaching us how to use computers and the internet. And while I was on the internet, I found out that Jacques Rougeau was opening his wrestling school because there was a Quebec wrestling website at the time, like one website. And on that site was that news. So I called my mom and I told her, you gotta call them. And I know, actually, I caught a glimpse of another Rougeau trainee saying that I was ungrateful. I think it was you guys did the interview with this guy, Hannibal.
Oh,
and and I saw like 30 seconds of him saying he was going to kick my ass because I'm ungrateful and I shouldn't be talking that way about Rougeau. At one point, I would say Jacques was almost like a second father to me, but he was a jerk. The first time I did a 450 splash, I think, it might seem like a wild claim, but I'm pretty certain he shit his pants. I'm not kidding. He jumped up and down. He couldn't believe what he saw. Then he disappeared for about 10 minutes. Like, he wouldn't even let us go see other shows, like, around town. For some reason, he felt like, oh, no, if they see you there and they know you're a Rougeau wrestler, it's bad for my image or whatever. But eventually I decided to go anyway, and I started going to see IWS shows. And so because of that, he said, yes, fine, you guys can go wrestle anywhere you want. From that moment on, you had the floodgates open, and just Rougeau boys, that's what they called us for a while, started wrestling everywhere in Quebec. Rougeau decided that he didn't want us wrestling all over the place anymore because he was going to start running shows again. So he was pulling that rule back. It's like everybody had to come back to the wrestling school. Everybody had to go back to wrestling once every 3 months because he had been in contact with WWE. And this was his claim. The next time WWE comes to Montreal for Raw, 2 of my guys are going to get a tryout. And he told me, I want you to be one guy. Because after the match, they were like chanting, please don't go. And it got to me. Like, I remember crying. As soon as I went through the curtain after the match, I started crying. Because I loved what I was doing. And I didn't want to stop. But I also didn't want to give up the opportunity to have a WWE tryout. But then the next day, after that show, I'll always remember, it was time for me to call Rougeau, and because we had to discuss some stuff about the tryout and signing that contract he wanted me to sign. But the bottom line is, Sexy Eddie spearheaded Generic on Ice career in the United States, and to this day, I'm very thankful for him. What happened is, everybody knows, he got cut. He squirted the blood out of his vein into his mouth. He looked like a fucking psycho doing it. And people were like, oh my god, these IWS guys are insane. We gotta see more of them. And then CZW booked Eddie and 3 more guys. And because we had that match at CZW, and I think, and I mean, he's confirmed this to me many times since, Super Dragon hated our 4-way. He hated it. He didn't like us either. From the moment I met this fucking guy to now, still to this day, he's just a bitter dude, and he's one of those guys who's like, oh, I think he feels like he's entitled to a lot and he hasn't gotten enough recognition, which, hey, I'll give him that. I think he's a tremendous wrestler. I think the reason he doesn't get as much recognition as he should is maybe because of his attitude. And yeah, that match turned out to be, I would say, instrumental in making me who I am now in wrestling, in terms of how I wrestle. And CM Punk yelled at me before the match, or after the match in the locker room, and that was not a good day, you know? And then later they came, like, Just Incredible left, he's not going to be your partner. And we found out he left because he got to the building, and the dude who gave him a ride to the show was standing around. It was before the doors opened. Low-key went up to that dude and said, "Who are you? Show me your ticket." And the guy's like, "I don't have a ticket. I drove Just Incredible." He's like, "Well, then you got to leave and go buy a ticket." He's like, I'm not paying. I brought Just Incredible here." He's like, "No, you got to pay." And low-key, for some reason, was insisting the dude pays. So Just Incredible's like, "Fuck this, I'm leaving." And he left. So I see this number that I don't know. And I'm like, oh, I don't answer numbers I don't know. And I get a voicemail. I listen to the voicemail, and it's low-key. And his voice, I swear, his voice is so deep that my phone speaker was like, he's like, the first thing's like, "Hey Kevin, it's low-key." Like it's like an earthquake in my phone. He's like, "Call me back." So I call him back, and he answers like, "Hello?" I'm like, "Hey low-key, it's Kevin Steen." And he goes, "I know, I can see it on my phone." Like he was mad that I introduced myself. So I said, "Okay, you called?" And I get him on the show, I'm like, "Mike, you okay?" And Mike Quackenbush, when somebody gets hurt in the ring, you okay? My leg's fucked. I'm fucked up. Or just, give me a second. You get the chance. "Mike, you okay?" "Well," this is what he says. "Well, I'm having a bit of a hard time focusing out of my left eye." In that tone. Not, "I can't see out of my eye," or "my eye's fucked." And thinking that, hey, we made enough of a difference in this company that they feel that these two kids from Canada should be champions now. That meant a lot to us. My ultimate goal in CZW, when I came back, or before I left, I should say, was to do Tournament of Death against John Zandig. And Zandig's like, "Fine. Generico's winning the belt." I'm like, he's on my team.
Right.
So I don't fucking care. And then Generico goes, "Oh, no. I don't want that belt." Like, I don't think Zandig liked CCW at the end. I don't think he liked...
He was disinterested.
Yeah, I don't think he liked owning it. It was a bother to him. And CZ, for DJ, it's not a bother. It's a passion. And that's important. So the guy was pissed because he felt like somehow the shitty draws were our fault. But what happened is... it turns out that the guys he put in charge of promoting were literally kids. They were like... Luca was a 17-year-old wrestling fan from the message boards. That the guy... I don't know how they found each other. And this other girl... The girl that booked us, Rafaela, her name was... She was 16. They were just wrestling fans that the guy put all his faith into to promote the shows. Generico went to talk to him about it, and he got fucking mad. He was like, "You're not..." I remember he told Generico, "I was like, I book you, nobody come." He's like, "You're not Rey Mysterio." People ask me, "Is Rey Mysterio wrestling?" I say, "No, Rey Mysterio." They leave. "You're not Rey Mysterio." So I don't know how he assumed that Generico would have the same drawing power as Rey Mysterio. I have no idea. He's like, "Somebody stole my wallet." Because he had left his wallet in his luggage. His wallet had $2,500 in it. Somebody stole my wallet. And the only person that had access to the building was the promoter. But, through that, we still had a good time. We get to Milan, the train station on Friday. We get off the train, face to face with the fucking promoter.
Whoa.
He's taking his train to go to work or something. He sees us. "Hi, guys." And so we had the match. And we had people rocking by the time it was done, and a good match. We got to the back, and Pierce, Jerry Lynn, and Aries chewed us out because they didn't like stuff we done in the match. It made no sense. We've been wrestling like that for 2 years. Mm-hmm. Ring of Honor's been like this for 5 years. What do you mean? Like, I've seen him tell Kerry, like he was really mad at Kerry about something once. And I saw him berate Kerry backstage and then his music hit because he was time for his promo. And he's like, okay, you motherfucker, and now I'm going to go out there and I'm going to put you over. And he got in the ring. He's like, I want to thank Kerry Silkin. And like, it was, you know what I mean? It's just like, after seeing that and that shows to me like, oh, fuck, you don't know what's genuine with that dude. I remember going on a road trip with young Stevie McFly to Quebec City. And we were both talking about, it was 2003, and we were both talking about how much it would mean to one day be in WWE. So for him to have made it there is incredible. But, you know, I tried to make them understand that I needed the money and that, you know, this was a big part of my income. And Jim would say, like, it's only a couple $1,000s. Like, yeah, but I didn't make six figures for several years before this. So this means a lot to me, the couple thousands. And Jim likes to go around now and say I'm ungrateful because I don't appreciate that he got that for me, but that's not true. He didn't get that for me. Kerry paid me, not Jim. Jim had nothing to do with it. For him to take credit for that. Ring of Honor used to be edgy and cool and different. And now it was just turning into every other TV show. I care and I am passionate about what I do. So if I feel like I could maybe make it better by voicing my opinion, I will. I'm sorry that Jim construes that as being hard to work with, but I'm not the one who's gotten fired from every job I've ever had. So I don't know who's hard to work with. Screaming at the top of his lungs obscenities at everybody around him because things aren't going the way he wants is not a way to handle things as an adult. I'm not afraid of new. Like, I'm not afraid of change. I'm not afraid of new. I welcome it, and you gotta do it. You gotta do it. Anybody who says, "Oh, I don't want to go there," come on, man, come on. Like, if you've been there once and you didn't like your experience, that's one thing. But anybody who will sit here and say, "No, that's not for me," fuck that. Come on, man. You're kidding yourself. I thoroughly appreciate, from the fans to the promoters to the people who run stuff like this, because without them I would be working a 9-to-5 job that I probably hate, so that means the world to me.